This recipe is called back the front marinated steak, and it's called that because we do the marinating after the steak's cooked. Normally if you're going to marinate a piece of meat, you either use a wet marinade and stick it in the fridge, or rub dry spices into it and wrap it up, stick it in the fridge, same thing. With this, we just cook the steak normally and get into the marinating after the event. We're going to cook this piece of steak normally. It's quite a big piece of meat. There's probably enough for 3 or 4 people there, and it's a beautiful piece of rump. You could also use a couple of thick sirloins for this. I'm just going to brush the steak with a little bit of olive oil and season it with some sea salt and black pepper on both sides. The steak, of course, was already back at room temperature, and I've got the grill set to medium, not to high, because it's such a thick piece of meat and it's going to take a little bit of time to cook. So we'll put our steak, put it on the char grill, I think, over medium heat, and that's going to take 4 or 5 minutes either side, but we'll have a look at it in a second. Let's talk about the back to front marinade. First thing we need is a metal baking dish, because it's going to go on the barbecue. Then after that, it's really simple. Just some anchovies that we're going to chop up, and don't worry about the flavour of the anchovies being too strong. It's not like they're on a pizza. It's a lovely, subtle, salty flavour in the marinade. We need some garlic crushed and some rosemary chopped up. And that's it for now. The steak's cooked about 1/3 of the way through, which is what we want. And we'll just turn that over, and that is absolutely perfect. And guys, remember, you turn the steak once. Just because you're holding the tongs doesn't mean you turn it 20 times. Turn the steak once, even a lovely big thick piece like this. I'm going to char grill some asparagus to go with the steak. There's a trick to know which part of the asparagus to use. It's very simple. Just hold it up like that and gently push, and it tells you which is the woody bit to throw away and which is the business end to keep. And we'll cut it all off to that length. Little drizzle of olive oil over it, and straight onto the barbecue. Now for the marinade. We need some anchovies chopped up, a couple of cloves of garlic. We can crush those or chop them, and some beautiful fresh rosemary. We'll just roughly chop. And that's it for now. Okay, a little bit of oil in there to get it going. Then, in with the anchovies and the garlic and the rosemary. We're just softening that. We don't want to brown it. We just want to melt the anchovies and take the raw flavour out of the garlic. Then, in with plenty more olive oil. And we want the finely grated zest of a lemon and then the juice of a lemon. We put some salt on the steak, and we've got the saltiness of the anchovies. So we don't need a lot more salt in this dish. We'll put in a little bit more sea salt and some freshly ground black pepper, of course. And over here, we take this beautiful looking piece of steak and put it straight in there. Our asparagus can go in there with it. So we're going to cover the steak either with a clean tea towel or a piece of foil, but it's important that you just put it on loosely and you don't crimp it down around the edges, because if you do, the steak will steam in its own heat. The steak's been in the marinade now for about 10 minutes. We've turned it once. And all we're going to do now is take this beautiful piece of meat out and slice it. That looks fantastic, and I don't think we could have cooked it much better. So we're going to serve everybody a couple of slices of this meat. So we're just going to spoon this beautiful sauce over now, because the juices from the steak have relaxed into the marinade, and the steak also absorbed the flavours of the marinade, so it's going to be absolutely delicious.